It's time for Reason.
That's the shenanigans that we have to start getting rid of here in Kansas. Once we do that, people will want to come here, businesses will want to come here, and the county and city won't even have to look for the jobs or the industries. They'll just be coming to us, and we'll have to figure out a place to where to put them. That's a good problem to have. Vote the progressives out. Vote the Democrats out. Vote even some moderates out, because we're over it. The movement's growing. Conservatism is on the rise.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Yeah, baby, that's what I'm talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason. Can you believe it? It is a Wednesday already, a hashtag freedom-loving Wednesday, having more fun than what we should be each and every day. Welcome into it. Good morning. It's great to have you along today, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas on the Big Talker. 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM, simulcasting as well on TV, KGPT TV channel 2610. Good morning, welcome aboard. It is great to have you along today on a freedom-loving Wednesday. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, we'd love to hear from you. We are on Facebook Live as well, facebook.com/1480KQAM. And speaking of the TV side, we just finished yesterday. I've been working on a couple of special projects and for the election time, because with how big this election's actually going to be, we wanted to do something special. So I've been working on a TV special that is going to be 4 episodes long, and it's going to be a few of the candidates in the area. Now, we didn't get to talk to everybody. I wish I could have talked to a lot more candidates, but we ran out of time because we had 4 episodes available to us because of the time restraints on this. So stay tuned in on KGPT on channel 26.1, I believe, is going to be on Cozy. It's going to be on... I don't even remember the days. I'll have to get the times for you, but it will be on social media as well. I believe it's going to be on like Thursdays or Fridays. The normal episode of Look Who's Talking, where they do the daily talk show for the area and for the community. They're going to replace that for the next 4 weeks, leading up to election time, with our Decision 2018 TV special, a half-hour program where I talk with 2 county commissioners, I talk with 2 state legislators, and then I talk with Chris Kobach, Republican candidate for governor, and I talk with Congressman Ron Estes for the congressional seat. So really excited about it. We got all 4 episodes completely done and filmed yesterday. We finished them off yesterday. I know they're putting them together, and they should be coming out on TV and on social media and on YouTube and everywhere else that we can very shortly. So stay tuned in. More information to come on that, but I am really excited, and I appreciate the opportunity for us to be able to do that as we get into Decision 2018, getting ready for the midterm elections. It's going to be a heck of a fun time. 316-721-8255. What a heck of a show we got for you today. It's going to be a really big one. Jim Howell, Sedgwick County Commissioner, as usual. It is a Wednesday. He'll be joining us on the program talking about the county commission event and the meeting going on today, how you can get involved. At 8 o'clock today, State Representative Susan Humphreys. She'll be joining us on our here on the radio, our Decision 2018, as I am excited to chat with her.
Decision 2018.
Pay attention.
Yeah, that's right, baby. So we'll do that at 8 o'clock today. Looking forward to chatting with her. It's been a while since we've had her on the program, so looking forward to that very much so. And I don't know if you're aware or not, there was a debate last night for the governor's debate. All 5 candidates were actually partaking in that. So we'll talk about that coming up on the show today. That one should be a fun one. Really not a whole lot of new information other than the other 2 candidates felt really important and really special being able to partake in this. That's really the only difference that this debate actually had. So we will get a recap. If you watched it, we'd love to hear from you on there as well. But the big news, of course, that happened yesterday is the fact that it came out, about 9, 10 o'clock our time yesterday, UN Ambassador Nikki Haley resigning from her post in the Trump administration. President Donald Trump accepting her resignation. She's going to be out, and we need to find a replacement for the UN ambassador. Now, this is very, very sad news. Really, first off, the frustrating part about this was that the media has been kind of egging her on a little bit, has been saying that she's planning on running against Donald Trump in 2020, that she's not getting along with President Donald Trump, that they've had their bouts. Maybe they did have their spouts. I don't know. Doesn't really matter to me. Do you always get along with your boss? Or do you say, hey, I don't necessarily agree with this. Hey, I want to do it this way. Hey, I don't think we need to do this project. Whatever it is, you don't always get along with your boss, but at the end of the day, you're not going to try and take over the company from them. I don't know, unless you had an opportunity to become the boss or the manager, then maybe you would. I don't know. But Nikki Haley, from what it sounds like, has no interest in any way, shape, or form wanting to take over the presidency, wanting to run against President Donald Trump. She just said, according to her statement yesterday when they asked her why, I've given everything I've gotten over the last 8 years, and I do think it's good to rotate in other people who can put in the same energy and power into it. No, I'm not running in 2020, she did go on to say. Now, the media, of course, first off, it's going to be really sad to see her go. Nikki Haley was an absolutely phenomenal ambassador to the United Nations. She is exactly what we've needed, and I am really sad to see her go. We need someone to stand up to the UN. We need someone to stand up to the big globalist establishment politicians, the tyrants that want to control you at the global level. We need someone to stand up to them, to say, you know what, if you're not going to get on board and support the U.S. agenda, then you're not going to get funding from the United States any longer. Hey, we're not going to be part of a group that's going to say that they're about civil rights and human rights when they actually support dictators across the world. We're not going to be part of this. This is going to be completely absurd. When President Trump went up and said, you know what, we don't believe in a globalist government, we are patriots and we believe in America, that absolutely rocked the House because they were furious. But that's what Nikki Haley's been arguing for the last how many years since she's been in there, the last 2 years, under the Trump administration. She's been phenomenal at it. Absolutely wonderful. I'm really, really sad to see her go. So that was kind of the solemn story of yesterday, because we need someone like that in there. Now, there's a couple names that have been floating around there that President Trump has announced that he may be considering for that UN ambassadorship position. But again, it's really sad to see Nikki Haley leave. If you, your thoughts, do you think that she's going to do anything else? She's from South Carolina. Here's my thoughts. Do you think maybe, just maybe, that she potentially could run for maybe a Senate seat? That she could be doing something a little bit different. Maybe she's going to stay at home, spend time with the family, just say, you know what, I'm done. I've done everything that I could. That's about as far as I could go. I've put in my 2 cents. Now it's time for somebody else. It's really phenomenal to see someone say, you know what, someone else needs to be in here with more energy. John McCain should have thought about that a long time ago. Nancy Pelosi should have thought about that a long time ago. Lindsey Graham should have thought about that a long time ago. About, you know, I've been here for 20, 30 years. Maybe it's time to shift aside and let somebody else take over this because they got a little more spunk and a little more energy to actually get something done. I've done my part. I've done what I could. I'm kind of done. I'm kind of over this stuff. Unless they like the power. But I've given everything I've got over the last 8 years, and I do think it's good to rotate people in who can put that same energy and power into it. She's stepping aside for her own reasons. Maybe because it is the family. I don't know. The official messages of what they give us, the official statements, are sometimes maybe a little bit different than the non-official statements of why they actually want to step down. But she supports President Donald Trump 120%. Shame on you, media, for trying to tear apart, again, the Republican Party. And shame on you for trying to assume that she's going to cause tension in the Republican Party by trying to run for a presidency in 2020 and trying to counter President Donald Trump. She's very content with Trump. Trump's very content with her. She has a position if she ever wants to come back, as Donald Trump said yesterday, and she just wants to spend time with her 2 children. Haley has 2 children to put through college and potential to make more money in the business world. When she left South Carolina, 2015 tax returns made available to the Associated Press showed that then Governor Haley and her husband earned a combined $171,000. She wants to go make more money. She's an asset. She's a benefit. Now, I know that there was some type of weirdness of her flying back and forth to South Carolina for a little bit, and some big CEOs and businessmen and women were paying her to come and do this, and she didn't quite put it on her taxes right. I don't know if that has anything to do with why she's leaving before it came out. Is this big shenanigans, corrupt story of her not putting things on her taxes because, you know, we need to do that. Yeah, I know. But it doesn't really matter. She's going to potentially make more money in the private sector, or I almost see her running for a position against like Lindsey Graham. Maybe Lindsey Graham shot himself in the foot. Maybe he's just gone too far. Now, Lindsey Graham did actually make some decent points, obviously, during the Kavanaugh hearings, but that's the one and only time that he's actually done anything positive, in my opinion, in I don't know how long. he's not the best senator. And maybe, even with his stance on Kavanaugh, maybe that gave him kudos nationally, but maybe in his state, maybe there's some little flakiness there of the women vote who's really upset with him. I don't know. Nikki Haley could come in, be a conservative senator, run against Lindsey Graham, and then she could win the women vote. I don't know. That would be kind of interesting, wouldn't it? It really would. But it's sad to see Nikki Haley go. It is devastating. We are at a huge loss when it comes to the United Nations, and hopefully we get somebody in with just as much fire to fight against the globalists, to fight against this ridiculous, absurd international government. We don't need it. We don't want it. It's not beneficial to us, and it's time for us to actually focus on our country again and not the world. 316-721-8255. Let me know if you agree, disagree. I'd love to hear for your thoughts on Nikki Haley leaving and who you think the new replacement should be for that position, who's just not going to take any crap from the rest of the world. I know they laugh at us. They think we're silly. They think we're foolish. They think we're just, living in the caveman times, the dark times, and we're just the nice patriotic country, and we're just going to stick to it. And, oh, yeah, how cute. They may think that. I don't care. I fail to see. It's funny. The ones that tell the young kids on the playground and the bullies not to listen to the bullies, not to listen to other people, be proud of who you are. Be proud of who you are if you wear glasses as a kid, or if you're a little overweight, or if they make fun of you, or if you're not as smart, or if you're too smart and you don't quite fit in with the rest of the cliques. Be who you are and be proud of who you are. Don't listen to the bullies out there. But yet then they turn around and say, oh, the rest of the world's laughing at us. We need to change our ways because we need to be just like everybody else. When I don't care. I don't care about my style. Obviously, as you can see, if you're watching TV and Facebook, I don't wear the most retro hipster type of clothes that are fads. I really don't. I don't really care. If I didn't have to actually put on, decent, somewhat clothes to be able to wear for my work, I would wear cut off sleeves because I don't care. Doesn't make any difference to me. I don't care what my fashion looks like. I don't care what people think of me. I'm in politics, for crying out loud. People call me a jerk every single day. I get hate emails every single day. I get angry people at me every single day. I get people criticizing me every single day. It makes no difference to me. I don't care. I know what I believe in. I know what I stand for. I know what makes me content and happy. I know I know how to take care of my family, and that's what I do. And usually, most people believe that same way as well. Why in the world would we care what some third world country believes and thinks of us at the United Nations? Oh, America, you need to change your ways. No. You're just jelly. Totally jealous. And that's what we need to stand for. Let's get ourselves out of the United Nations. Or if we're not going to get out of it, let's at least do what Nikki Haley did and say, we're not going to take your crap anymore. 316-721-8255. We'll take a break. We got lots to get to today between the debate. Gas prices on the rise as well. Why? And we'll take a look at that breakdown between what the gas price actually includes in there. So a heck of a lot to get to today. Your phone calls as well. It's going to be one fun show today right here on The Voice Reason. It is a patriotic Wednesday. Stay right here.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
25 minutes past the hour. Welcome into The Voice of Reason. Good Wednesday morning to you. It is a freedom-loving Wednesday, waking you up the best way we know how to do so. Better than a cup of coffee, a shot of espresso, even an energy drink, getting you pumped up, ready to go for the day. You see the light at the end of the tunnel. It is almost Friday. That's what you should be excited about. It's the pre-Friday celebration. Yeah, let's see how far we can stretch that one out. Welcome in, 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. So I posted a picture on social media last night. I got home and I went out. I did some door knocking, campaigning stuff, helped out some individuals, which is really fun, which, by the way, I got some stories to tell you about that as well today, later on. But I got home and I tell you what, election season is crazy. It's always so busy. It is one of those to where, we do as much as we can on the air here, try and talk to different candidates, get you some information, talk about the debates and everything going on. And that's my meat and potatoes, baby. That's what I love. That's what I do. And then I do the rest of the work throughout the station here. And then I go out and do that. And I get home, around 6 o'clock-ish. And I got home last night and I saw that our Republican running for the state legislature in my district, David Robbins. We've already talked to him on the air. He swung by yesterday and dropped off the yard sign. So I had his yard sign in my yard, which made me very happy. Now, I felt a little embarrassed because I will be the first to admit I have not mowed the lawn in a little bit. It's been raining. I haven't had a chance to. And it's been like 2 weeks because I've been so busy. I'm just saying. So the grass is a little bit longer. And, of course, my neighbors are probably looking at me be like, yeah, I know, whatever. But they're already mad at me. And the reason they're mad at me is because right now I have 4 yard signs in my little yard. I don't have the largest front lawn. I really don't. It's relatively small. But I have 4 yard signs right now. So, but I had 3, and then 4 came in yesterday with our state legislator, with David Robbins. And I put it out there, and it looks really cool. I love it. So I took a picture of it, put it on social media, and said, hey, am I missing any? Because right now I have a Chris Kobach yard sign, and a Congressman Ron Estes yard sign, and a Scott Schwab for Secretary of State yard sign, and now I have a David Robbins yard sign. And then, a few individuals came back and they're like, oh, wait a second, you need Jake LaTurner for treasurer, and you need Derek Schmidt for attorney general, and you need a couple others. So I said, okay. So today, after I'm done with all the stuff and I'm done campaigning and I'm done doing things all over, I'm going to go to the campaign headquarters again for the Republicans here. That's right next to my house, by the way, if you have not gone to it yet. But you can go there, and they have yard signs for everybody. I'm going to pick up the last couple that I need, and I just don't care. I don't care. My neighbors can be mad at me. I don't really care. First off, some of them just don't like politics at all. There's one right across the street from me where she's like, why do you need yard signs? I don't like politics. I don't follow politics. I don't care about politics. It makes no difference to me. I just don't like it. Why do you? And she doesn't get it. And it drives her nuts that she gets out every day, and right across the street is my yard with, a crap ton of yard signs in there. So she just kind of chuckled. I'm like, all right, whatever. She's a little grumpy with me. And then 2 doors down, there's another neighbor. I can say this because they don't listen to the show, so it's okay. There's 2 doors down where I don't think they follow politics as much either, because they're really great and we love them to death. They're a great neighbor. But we have the Chris Kobach and Ron Estes and all this stuff out there. And they made the comment a couple of days ago about how they don't like anybody who's a Trump supporter. Now, I don't have a Trump sign out in my yard, but, obviously association by default, because we're strong Republicans and we have Republican yard signs in our yard. I don't know if they just know that and just kind of keep it checked because they don't want to start an argument with us, and they're maybe mad at us in closed doors, or whether they just don't follow politics enough to understand that if we're supporters of Chris Kobach, we're probably supporters of Donald Trump. So I'm almost considering putting out a Donald Trump sign just for the sake of having a Donald Trump sign. I don't know. But again, just like the style of clothing, I just don't care. Whatever, you can be mad at me. It's my yard. I do what I want. So I'm going to put out more yard signs. So I'll probably have like a good 6, 7, 8 yard signs in my yard by the end of the day as we go into election season for the last 3 weeks. Yes, I am the only one in my entire street who actually has yard signs. My neighbors hate me because of it. They're very grumpy. Well, not because I've not only mowed my lawn, or haven't mowed my lawn in like 2 weeks, but now that I have like 7 or 8 yard signs that will be out there very soon. And guess what? Guess who doesn't care? This guy. Bottom of the hour news coming up. Stay right here.
Here's the latest from the KQAM News Center.
If Andy drives you nuts,
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
let him know. Call the show, 721-8255. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Hey, welcome into the Voice of Reason. Good Wednesday morning to you. It's great to have you today, starting your morning the best way we know how to do so, advancing conservatism on a daily basis, because that's what our lives need. Just a little bit of conservatism thrown in, even for Democrats. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. That's exactly what they need. See, they live off of feeding anger and frustration their entire life. So you know what? Sometimes they need a little bit of conservatism thrown into the day so they can get all angry and upset about it. They can benefit from it, and then they can complain about it because that's just what they do. Yeah, 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Question for you. How many yard signs have you had out in your yard at one time before? Have you been one of those where you've had like 7 or 8 or 9 different yard signs? Because why not? Why not? You could actually, what you could do is actually create a design in your yard, like a pattern with all the yard signs. Or you could just have like 1 or 2 and be done with it and just like, yeah, heck with the rest. But I figure, if we're going to support candidates, we need to support all the candidates that I could potentially be voting for. So that way, literally, if someone drives by and they're like, I don't know who to vote for. Well, there's the Secretary of State candidate, there's the governor candidate, there's the state legislative candidate, there's the county candidate, goes on down the list. And you can just have all of them right there. So that way you don't even have to worry about it. You just take a photo of your yard signs, and then boom, right there. All the candidates. You can go to the voting booth and vote for every single one. It's very simple. It's a very easy thing. So I'd love to hear, how many yard signs have you had in your yard? I will be having, let's see, I have, like I said, 4 right now. I'll probably be having anywhere from 6 to 7 over the next couple of days. I'll stop and grab just a couple of more on my way home over the next few days. 316-721-8255. There is, I don't know if you've noticed or not, but at the gas pump, gas prices are getting ridiculously high. Now, I may not be extremely old or, older, but I do remember when I got my very first car. And my very first car, by the way, was fantastic. I've had 3 cars in my life. And my very first one was probably my favorite car. It was a 1996 Pontiac Grand Am, little 2-door. I bought it for $4,000. It had 180,000 miles on it. And going from that 180, I got it in high school, my senior year of high school. I drove it to Ohio for college, drove it back to Colorado for after college, and then drove it to Garden City when I first started my job in Garden City. And my Pontiac Grand Am was the best car that I ever had. Like I said, I bought it with 182,000 miles on it. I drove it until literally the wheels fell off of it when I was in Garden City at 390,000 miles. I know. That's a heck of a lot. And it was beautiful. And the reason that I had to get rid of it was because the axle fell off it. It snapped right in the middle, and the tire fell off. So it just got its use and it just wouldn't go anymore, or else I would have been able to fix it. Now, I mean, come on, the oil leaked a little bit, the antifreeze leaked a little bit, there's about 40 bumper stickers on the back of it. It was fantastic. I did have some ripped off, and that's another story for another time in college, because I put all of them on there and they were all political stickers. And going to a very liberal college with conservative bumper stickers is not a very good thing to do. Just a word to the wise for all you young kids going to college right now. But I loved it. I've had just a few cars in my life, and I don't remember where I was going with that story. That's okay. Gas prices. Yeah, that's right. See, went on the tangent. There you go. It's early in the morning. It's okay. So I remember when I had my car in high school that a $20 bill would be able to fill up my entire tank. I remember this. And it was small. It was cheap gas prices. Then it got to be a little more expensive, and luckily in college I wasn't driving a whole lot because I was mostly staying on campus. Then it would get a little more expensive by the time I got back from college and I had to work, and it took a little bit. It was like $25 or $30 to be able to fill up the gas tank, or $40 to fill up the gas tank. It was getting ridiculous. And now, obviously, a 2-door Pontiac Grand Am got relatively good gas mileage, even though it was a bit older, but it took more and more and more to fill up. But I remember that it was $20 a tank. Just to fill up the entire, I knew $20. Bam! If I had $20 in my wallet, I'd be able to go, and I was in good shape. Now, I don't have that car anymore, obviously, and right now I'm actually driving a truck, and it takes $60 to fill up the gas tank for the truck, and it's getting to be completely ridiculous. And you see the gas prices continue to rise. Now, with the rest of the economy, with how well the economy is going, you see that, I mean, at least we're making a little more money. Maybe we have a little bit of a tax break because of the tax breaks there. We need to work on that in the state of Kansas. We haven't really seen the effects of that lately. Working on it. Midterm elections coming up in the next few weeks. So we're starting to see the economy come back a bit. Unemployment rate going down. Salaries are hiking up a little bit. We're actually doing decent. The problem is, though, is that now we're seeing gas prices go up. And the question is why? Now we could talk about the trade. We could talk about the oil that we're buying from other nations. We're talking about maybe us drilling, and maybe the storms are affecting that as well, because maybe the offshore drilling can't necessarily do what it's needing to do to get the oil drilled and get it out to the market, sort of thing. There's a lot of different discussions that we can have there, but there's one part of this that we don't necessarily pay attention to that we need to, and that is the taxes within the gas. First off, I want to start off with this. The AAA in Kansas said Monday that the trend to higher prices at the pump continued this week, though only barely, as Kansas saw a 1 cent increase to an average price of $2.75 a gallon statewide. Topeka and several other cities saw prices holding steady over the past week, though. AAA of Kansas reported gas prices in Kansas have risen 8 cents per gallon in the past month and are up 44 cents compared to a year ago. This is September switch over to winter blend gasoline ushered in cheaper gas prices compared to the summer, but that drop was shortly lived. Usually we see a bit of a drop that stays consistent for a while. That didn't really happen this year. Gas prices haven't been this expensive since 2014, when motorists were paying on average more than $3 per gallon nationally. Of the 10 Kansas cities regularly highlighted by AAA Kansas, 6 saw gas price increases. Salina was the lead of that with 10 cents per gallon. Lawrence was up 9 cents a gallon. Hayes was up 3 cents a gallon. Prices stayed relatively the same for Manhattan, Pittsburgh, and Topeka, while Kansas City saw a 1 cent decrease. And we could go on about more of the actual number, but $2.75 is an average here in Kansas. To me, that is absurd. Now, I do remember when it did peak over $3 a gallon for a while. And you can remember that. You can attest to that as well. I don't think it should ever have to be that high. You hear all the pundits, you hear the strategists, you hear all these people say, it's someday we're going to be getting $15 gallons. Give me a break. $15 a gallon? I don't think people would be buying it at $15 a gallon. I'm just saying, I don't think they would. I don't think that they would actually go out of their way to spend the money. They would find alternative ways. Now, that could be the quote-unquote conspiracy if you want to look at it to say, hey, we're going to force people off all the oil. We're going to force people off gas. We're going to go to alternative energies. We're going to go into the plug-in card where you can feel like, I'm going to work today. You sneeze and it looks like it totaled the car. And I will say, I'm sorry, if you have one of those little bitty smart cars, that is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. I get the whole gas mileage thing. I get the whole being efficient thing. But really, little tiny 2-door car, doesn't have a trunk. That is the most absurd looking thing I've ever seen in my entire life. What we need to do is get gas prices back down. Now, we have a couple of ways of doing that. We can attack the oil company. We can actually try and drill our own oil instead of actually borrowing oil or buying oil from the Middle Eastern countries or wherever we get our oil. Or we can look at the taxes that are associated with it as well. Now, this is from 2012, when it was still a little bit cheaper, but it goes for the same ratio here. According to the American Petroleum Institute, Americans pay on average of 48 cents per gallon in taxes. Federal gas tax is 18.4 cents per gallon, which states at their own gas tax. Now, this was again in 2012, a little bit different compared to now, but just think, out of the $2.75 that we're actually paying in gas right now, 48 cents of that, almost 50 cents of that $2.75 is going to taxes. I always hear the progressives argue and complain and whine and throw a fit about the evil oil companies and how they're making so much money and all the profits they're making. And just think about this for a second. As we see gas prices go up, that's always the place that we turn our attention to. We always focus on the gas companies, oil companies, the drilling, the terrible fracking, the terrible things they're doing, and then all the benefit that they're getting, all the money that they're receiving. And they do. They get profits. Duh. It's a private sector economy. They're going to get profits for the work that they put in and the product that they sell. That's not a shocker. But when gas prices go up, it's not necessarily always the oil company. A large portion of gas increases for the price on you and I are the taxes. And 48 cents a gallon on taxes is a ridiculous amount. We could be floating around $2 a gallon right now if it weren't for taxes. And $2 a gallon, I'm totally content with. That's pretty awesome. I could go with $2 a gallon. We can fill that up pretty awesome. $40, boom, done. But then we have the 50 cents of taxes on top of it. And Kansas, relatively in the middle of the country, like we always are when it comes to tax rates there, we have some individuals, moderate Republicans and even Democrats, that have advocated for sales tax increases in the state of Kansas on gas in order to fight climate change, which I think is completely bogus and absurd. Good luck with that one. That ain't going to happen. When we have income tax and sales tax and property taxes that are already too high as well, then you want to put on an additional gas tax. Yay, we're doing so. We're being productive. Give me a break. But when we see 50 cents almost a gallon in taxes, that means that we need to again, appropriate our frustration, direct our frustration and anger to the right places. And it's not the oil companies. It's not the evil rich oil companies or the drilling or the fracking or everywhere else that we like to complain about, but it's actually the government. Well, the government, what are they doing? They're turning around and telling everybody to be angry at the oil companies for raising their prices. This is the problem with the system that we've seen over and over and over. And I try and show these examples every single day on the radio because it's so angering and frustrating that when you hear the government come out and say, oh, look, we're buying oil from over here, we're drilling over here, look at the gas prices, oil companies need to pay their fair share. They're making millions and millions and millions of dollars, which, by the way, they have to pay proper wages and extremely high wages for many individuals who are drilling and fracking because that's hard work. Then they have to pay for all the technology. Then they have to invest in new technology. Then they have to ship it and transport it. Then they have to insure it because a lot of times we get those oil spills. And then they have to get taxed on all of this stuff because they have one of the higher taxes as a company as well, paying into the government because of the industry that they're in. And then the government puts a tax on the sales tax of the gas when you actually purchase it and turn around and blame the oil companies for making too much money and why the gas prices are so high. Do you see a flaw in the system here? Do you see the flaw in the way that things operate here? The misdirected frustrations, the misdirected angers that happen every single day because we don't want to address the real issue. Why does the government need to have a ridiculous amount of sales tax on gas per gallon every time you buy it? It's like a food sales tax. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. And if it's a livelihood that we need in order to survive, we probably don't need to be taxed on it. We don't need to be taxed on food, and we don't need to be taxed on gas. But yet, here we are. Welcome to 2018. 316-721-8255. Let's go to the phone tier line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Scott.
Hey, good morning, Scott. How are you?
Well, I didn't hear anything about an economic plan from the candidates last night. They seem to be, the questions seem to be kind of like these bizarre type questions about these crazy issues. But I didn't hear anything about the economic plan. Now, if there was a question asked about it, I didn't hear it. Did you hear anything about an economic plan by any of the candidates?
No, it was a little bit different style of debate last night. So, and I will talk about that here in a little bit because the interesting part was that they actually had the other two candidates as well that never get attention, Rick Cluse, the independent, and Caldwell, the libertarian. So that was kind of fascinating, and it was more of a focus on them. But really, they didn't really focus on economic plans. They did focus on guns and Medicaid and educational funding and that sort of thing. But it was a little bit different style of debate as opposed to the normal talk of education. What's that?
Yeah, they talked about like illegal immigration. I heard them talk about that a little bit. I don't know if I even heard them talk about education that much.
They talked a little bit about educational finance, but it was mostly some of the other non-topical issues that usually don't get discussed in normal debates because we've heard them in 3-4 debates already talk about economic plans. So this one was more on, the LGBTQ rights and Medicaid expansion and some of the Second Amendment rights and that sort of thing. So, I think that the economic stuff and business initiatives were thrown in there as a flavor to some degree, but that wasn't really the meat and potatoes of that debate last night, which I kind of appreciate because it's a little bit different side of the conversation that we don't normally get from every other debate that we've seen so far and that we may see going on into the general election.
Well, that's the first debate I've seen on television. I don't know if they're going to have any more on television, but I'd like to hear them talk about the economic plan.
Possibly. And we are working on, by the way, it's not confirmed or anything yet. It's still kind of floating in the air, but the option is out there that the Wichita Chamber of Commerce was discussing trying to get a debate going, and we're going to try and broadcast that here on KQAM. So some more may be coming, and I know that they have a few more debates lined up going into the general, and I know it's going to come up. Now, if you are curious about economic initiatives, I can say right now that the way that many of the candidates have come out with their strategies, Laura Kelly just says that if we invest in education and we invest in Medicaid expansion, things will kind of work themselves out when it comes to the economy. Greg Orman wants to invest more in government initiatives to allow the private sector to grow. And Chris Kobach saying, let's get government out of the way and lower taxes enough so where businesses want to come here on their own and it grows naturally. And that's really the basic differences between all three of the major candidates on where they want to see the economy grow in Kansas.
Yeah, I was I was hoping they would have a plan to say, well, hey, I'm going to do this to create businesses here in Kansas or jobs in Kansas or something,
Sure. Well, personally, I mean, I'm in favor of what Chris Kobach has to say is really government shouldn't be growing the job, but we should just be getting out of the way to where the jobs should be growing naturally on their own. And that's really the best way to make that happen by lowering taxes and creating the incentive to where when a business is looking to invest or start a business or relocate their business, they're looking and saying, all right, where's the places with the best opportunity? Oh, look, Kansas has the lowest taxes. Kansas isn't going to regulate me to death. Kansas is going to be the best opportunity. I'm going to move there. And that's really what I'd like to see as opposed to let's invest in a new government program that's going to, try and bring business here forcefully when it may not be the best scenario for them to do so.
Well, I mean, I think as far as like a governor situation, they could probably help different counties and help facilitate businesses coming there and say, hey, these people want to come here.
Sure. Maybe
we can find a location for them and everything to
Oh, yeah. I mean, try and work with the zoning laws to make sure that it's favorable to them. Absolutely. I mean, I don't think that the government should be out of it completely, but, we want to create that incentive for them to choose to come here. And then you're right. We can work with the steps to make it comfortable for them for that transition to the state of Kansas, somewhere, wherever that may be.
Now, the other part of it, I guess, whatever other elections we have, whether it be county commissioner or city council, we got to also look at them, make sure that they're the type of people who are trying to bring something here, because, even if the governor, just like Donald Trump, brings a good environment for business, it's not going to do them any good if you got people who are just going to sit on their butt and let jobs run away like they did with the Tyson chicken plant.
Sure.
They just sat on their hands on that one. They didn't do anything, and they could have done something to help it.
Sure.
Because like I said, when you got a job, or when they got a job, which is sitting up there, they don't care. And we have somebody who does care in those positions so that when something comes, an opportunity comes, they're able to do something with it.
Sure. No, that's a great point, Scott. I appreciate that. We got to take a break here, but you're right. I mean, the job initiatives, the economic initiatives are extremely important, and we will hear more about the candidates on what they exactly want to do, and hopefully we get a chance as we talk to the candidates again before the election to ask them about it a little bit more in detail. But you're absolutely right. But last night's debate was a little bit different, not necessarily the same status quo, same talking points and rhetoric that we've heard from the get-go, but something just a little bit different, and they included the two other candidates in there as well. That was kind of an interesting twist as well. Now, did we get anything out of it? I don't know. Maybe not necessarily, but I do want to talk about that in a little bit here as we wrap up hour number one. Your phone calls at 316-721-8255, 7 minutes to the top of the hour. We'll take one more break and wrap this one up. Lots more to get to today on The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
So I got an email from a couple state legislators yesterday about an email they've been receiving from quote-unquote constituents and their concerns about certain issues, especially when it comes to the Kavanaugh confirmation and the U.S. Supreme Court. So I'll read that email when we come back in hour number two. Plus, I do want to recap the governor's debate that happened yesterday with KMUW and the NPR station as they talked with all five candidates, not just the three main ones, but all five of them. We'll touch on that. Did it really make a difference and influence with the other independent, with the Libertarian candidate on stage talking about their issues? The funny thing is the recap of it on the website is hysterical because it's only like one sentence from each one of them from the entire debate. So what they actually said, if you didn't watch it, the big focus of what they actually had was kind of entertaining. We'll talk about that when we come back. Your phone calls as well. Lots to get to on a Wednesday. Almost not a Tuesday anymore, but a Wednesday. Stay right here. This is The Voice of Reason.
Speak. It's time for Reason.
That's the shenanigans that we have to start getting rid of here in Kansas. Once we do that, people want to come here, businesses will want to come here, and the county and city won't even have to look for the jobs or the industries. They'll just be coming to us, and we'll have to figure out a place to where to put them. That's a good problem to have. Vote the progressives out. Vote the Democrats out. Vote even some moderates out, because we're over it. The movement's growing. Conservatism is on the rise.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Yeah, baby, that's what I'm talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, hour number 2 of the Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas, on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM. Simulcasting as well on TV, KGPT TV, channel 2610. Good morning. Welcome aboard. We love having you here on a hashtag Freedom Loving Wednesday. What a show it's been so far. Lots more coming up on the show today. Looking forward to it, along with your phone calls at 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Starting your morning better and better each and every day. That's the way we love it. Coming up at the bottom of the hour in about 20 minutes, as usual, Jim Howell, Sedgwick County Commissioner. It is Wednesday, which means there is a Sedgwick County Commission meeting, and looking forward to chatting with him to see what's going on in that meeting. In the 8 o'clock hour, we have Susan Humphreys, state representative, coming on the show as we are going along with our Decision 2018. I know you're excited about it.
Decision 2018.
Pay attention.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're trying to get as many candidates on the show as we can. Tomorrow, we have Steve Watkins coming on the show, Republican candidate for the 2nd Congressional District. He was the one, if you remember, that stood up on stage with President Donald Trump in Topeka and was talking to the crowd there. So we'll look forward to chatting with him coming up tomorrow. But today, State Representative Susan Humphreys, get ready for that, coming up in just an hour from now. Other than that, it's open line to you at 316-721-8255. I do want to get to the debate that happened yesterday and talk about that briefly, not in the context of playing a bunch of audio from it, because there's really no need to. We heard a lot of this already, but there was an interesting twist to it, to where the other 2 candidates were involved in it as well. What did they say? Was it really a matter of fact in any way, shape, or form? Did it matter? Does it matter that they were on the stage because they felt important and they got to, they're floating at around 1 or 2% support and they got to make their voice heard? Is that going to win over individuals for them to get more support? That's what we'll have to ask here in just a minute. But I want to start off with this. I got an email, a couple emails actually, from a few different legislators who have been receiving emails from individuals saying they're constituents. Now, this one that was sent to me was from a state representative, and when he sent it to me, he said, I did the voter registration list, checked it out, and could not find this person's name in the district in any way, shape, or form, and the address that they provided is not the right address. There's actually a different name under that address, and I couldn't find them. So it sounds like people that are pretending to be constituents are emailing about issues when they're not even constituents, which I look, you can talk to as many legislators as you want to, even if you're not in their district, and say, hey, I'd really encourage you to vote this way. I'd really encourage you to do this. I'd really encourage you to support this agenda or that agenda or which way, whatever. It doesn't matter. But don't try and lie and say that you're a constituent of theirs. Why don't you just say, hey, I may be out of your district, but it's a really important issue. Please vote for this. There's a big difference there, isn't it? To me, at least. Maybe not. I don't know. But here's what it has to say. So I want to read the letter, because this is the agenda now, even with our state legislators, for individuals who are not even constituents. I don't even know if they're in the state. I have no idea. Dear Representative, as one of your constituents, see, they lay right off the bat. As one of your constituents, I am angry about anti-woman Brett Kavanaugh joining the Supreme Court and what it could mean for the future of our basic civil rights and freedoms. With reproductive rights under greater threat than ever before, I urge you to fight for laws that expand access to comprehensive reproductive health care, including abortion care, and against anti-abortion laws that decrease access. People should be able to make their own reproductive decisions with their healthcare provider without the interference of politicians and anti-abortion extremists. We need your support to allow all people to make their own decisions that are right decisions for themselves, their families, and their future. I support an abortion provider in our state who work to make our productive choice a reality, and you should too. Your constituents need you more than ever. We are watching. Sincerely, Concerned Citizen. Now, believe what you want to. I don't want to go down the road of abortion debate, really. But I do find it interesting that we're emailing our state legislators on an issue about Brett Kavanaugh. Now, the state can do what it can discuss abortion. It can restrict abortion. It can make it a little more loosey-goosey in the state. We've done a very good job, in my opinion, of restricting a lot of that under Governor Sam Brownback, even though it is legal federally, that we have kind of tightened the lid a little bit on it here in the state of Kansas. But with these types of emails, you can see, number one, to me, there's a few things that pop out with this email. Number one, it's a cookie-cutter email to where it's the same one that goes out to probably hundreds of different legislators across the nation. But they lie saying that as one of your constituents. If you don't live in the district, you're not a constituent. So I want to make that very clear. But this is the movement now of what's their focus going into the midterm elections when it comes to statewide races, if it comes to the governorship, if it comes to congressional races across the state and even across the nation. This is going to be the big issue that they're going to be focused on, is how dare Brett Kavanaugh get on there. An anti-woman Brett Kavanaugh is what they called him. And we need reproductive rights. It's the woman's health. It's the right to choice, whatever, yada yada, whatever they go down the road of. But it's a very cookie cutter email, and I've seen this email from a few different legislatures, and it seems to be from the same person because it seems relatively the same for everybody. So I find that interesting. I know that we have a lot of legislators and elected officials that listen to the program. I don't know if you received this email or not as well, but if you have, then we have to remember first who you represent. And that's the message that I want to send to legislators right now, is that if you receive emails like this, yeah, emails are nice. Yeah, letters are nice. But number one, if they're not a constituent, does it have as much of an impact on your decision-making as someone who actually is a constituent? Number two, if you get enough of these types of very cookie-cutter type of emails, would that shift your mind and your mindset and your idealism on the issue? Now, this one be a little more extreme because most people are either for it or against it, and that's just the way it is, and they're not going to change their mind on it, sort of thing right now. But on other issues, tax rates, government spending, government programs, nannyism, whatever the case may be, we've seen the case where we've had some wishy-washy politicians going on one side of the aisle and back again. So I find it quite intriguing. But this one going against anti-Brett Kavanaugh, anti-woman Brett Kavanaugh, and people should be able to make their own reproductive decisions with their health care provider without the interference of politicians or anti-abortion extremists. I find it kind of entertaining. 316-721-8255. Hopefully they just, yeah, that's cute. Okay, and toss it away. I did read you the email that one of the constituents or one of the legislators got, what was it, about 6-8 months ago, about saying, please pass laws to stop people from astral projecting into my home. Meaning, the whole out-of-body experience, astral projection, your spirit leaves the body, can travel around and go do things, and how she's being harassed by a guy who likes her and is astral projecting into her home, and asked for legislation for that to be stopped, which I'm sure that they'll get right on. Let's go to the phones here, get your phone calls here. 316-721-8255, line number 1. Good morning. Who's this?
Hey, good morning, Andy. This is Carl.
Carl Peterjohn. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm fine. A couple quick points. A legal point. Most of the abortion-related legislation passed in Kansas by Governor Brownback and the legislature has been challenged and is pending in courts, which is perhaps a reason why there was so much activity on the battle over Kavanaugh, because there are a lot of other states where similar things have happened.
Sure.
And that's a key thing going forward. But I've got a question for you, Andy. I want a challenge for you. Do you know how to spell moderate here in Kansas?
D-E-M-O.
Here's how you spell moderate in Kansas. Liberal.
That's right. There you go.
If you don't like that, and this is mainly true in Republican districts, you can. An alternative spelling is PROGRESSIVE. So I just wanted to throw out that little spelling lesson for your listeners this morning, because the type of Republicans who describe themselves as moderates can also be spelled RINO.
See that. Well, there you go. We do need every once in a while. We need some spelling lessons, and that way, it's going to be like a Sesame Street voice of reason. One Democrat, and we could do the Dracula countdown on the number of rhinos in the state of Kansas, and then we could see. You know what? You're just going to get me on down a rampage here, Carl. I appreciate it very much. What we can do now, it's going to be the voice of reason, different segments. It's going to be the Dracula counting, one liberal, Then we go in from that to the next episode where it's going to be, we're going to be rhino hunting, all right? Great. Thanks a lot, Carl. Carl Peter John, appreciate the call very much. No, you're right. We have very many progressives that are in the state, and they are extremists. There's not very many. The moderates, quote unquote, in the state are many of them, the majority of them, Republicans that pretend to be Republicans that vote many with the Democrats as well. So you're right. We have great extremism in the state. Now, when it comes to the legislation that you said is under the court's decision, and it's in the lawsuits are being filed, and they're trying to stop the Brownback suits against the anti-abortion agenda that he's had in the state of Kansas. You're absolutely right that it could potentially be stopped or frozen or overturned. Now with Brett Kavanaugh, this really comes down to if it ends up getting to the U.S. Supreme Court on what the stance is for states' rights versus the federal government. And you could go to one of two ways with this. You could either say, or I guess one of three ways. You could either say, number one, that they have the right to do so. It's unconstitutional for the state to be able to making this decision. And no, you can't do this, and they're going to overturn it. That would be the wrong decision, and that would be something that I don't foresee potentially happening because the U.S. Constitution doesn't say anything about abortion. That does say the right to life, so there might be something there. But for them to say, yeah, you can't do that, it's federal law to say that you're allowed to do this, you're trying to restrict it, that's a bunch of BS, you can't do that, and overturn it. The second option would be for them to say, yeah, you know what, this is the right to life, and you can have all the justification, and we're going to overturn Roe v. Wade completely, which I highly doubt is going to happen as well. What I think is going to happen is for them to say, well, outside of the Constitution doesn't really matter. The Constitution doesn't say anything about abortion, so therefore it defers back to the states. So the state of Kansas, you have all the justification in the world to make the decision that you did as a state, and other states can make that decision as they want to as well. And that's probably what's going to happen. I personally would like to see option number two, where they say, well, we do have the right to life, so therefore it's just banned altogether, and we're going to overturn Roe v. Wade. I'd like to see that. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen, but that's what I would like to see. I honestly think, realistically, that it's going to be stage number three, where they say, the states have the right to make their own state laws about the issue. Kansas is all justified in whatever it's done to try and restrict abortion, as opposed to some other states that maybe make it a little more open and loosey-goosey. So that's the way I see it. But we have a movement. The point of this, and the reason I read this email, is because there is a movement right now in Kansas of extremists and of progressives that are emailing representatives, lying to them about being constituents, sending it to probably more than one state legislature, and trying to make this be the turning point in the midterm election. And let me tell you something. If this is going to be the driving force for the agenda in the state of Kansas on elections, you're going to lose. Because there are very many religious individuals in Kansas. There are very many conservatives in the state of Kansas. And most of them have paraded and hyped up the laws and the restrictions that Governor Brownback put into place. Whether you like Brownback or not, most people have been very much in agreement with what he's done with abortion issues in Kansas. So if that's going to be the topical issue that you're now going to try and force into the discussion for the midterms, then I think Democrats and extremists are going to lose very poorly. Just my speculation again. But I do find it ironic they start sending these emails out to numerous different legislators across the state and wondering what the response is going to be on this. 316-721-8255. Let's sneak in another phone call here, shall we? Line number 2. Good morning. Who's this?
Hi, Andy. This is Helen.
Helen, how are you?
I'm doing just great.
Yeah.
I'm calling in regards to Nikki Haley. I think she's done really great for the most part. But I've heard, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but I've heard that she was trying to get us to go into war with in Syria.
I know that that's come up, and I know that she's talked about it. I know that her and Donald Trump, I think, disagreed on some of the things that she wanted to do with some of the interests in the Middle East. I don't know if that was necessarily her deciding factor to leave. I think that she's leaving on good terms. She said she wanted to spend more time with the family, and she's got more private industry corporation interests in mind that she's going to be able to work with in South Carolina that's going to make her a heck of a lot more money than what she's doing. And not to mention that she's one of those conservatives that just says, we should only be in public service for an X amount of time, and then somebody else with a little more fire can come up and actually do this after I'm done. So I'm bowing out and letting somebody else take over for a while. So I don't know if that was necessarily the deciding factor on her.
Well, that's not what I said. I'm not saying that's why she resigned. Just stepped down. I'm just saying that I've heard that that's what she was kind of maybe pushing towards. And as it says in St. Matthew 5:17, think not that I, to Christ, am come to destroy the law or the prophets. Well, one of the prophecies of the prophets in the Holy Bible is in Amos chapter 1 through 8, and it's God is going to destroy Syria, and so we don't need our soldiers there, and that's not a good thing. Just let it come to pass, and keep our men and women out of there. And in Acts chapter 5:39, it says, "But if it be of God, ye cannot overthrow it, lest haply ye be found even to fight against God." So it's foolish for us to try to send troops into Syria, and it's part of God's plan and prophecy that He's going to destroy it.
Sure. Well, there you go, Helen. I appreciate that. We got to take a break, but it's a great point, and I don't know whether we're going to. I don't see us going into a conflict over there right now. I think that we're trying to limit our conflicts that we're seeing over there as we speak, and we've done a very good job of being able to keep some things at bay over there. We'll see what happens, but right now I think some of the interests are elsewhere than Syria for the time being. Appreciate it, though. 23 minutes past the hour. We'll take a break right here on The Voice of Reason. Stay tuned.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. I don't know if you've seen this yet or not, and keep an eye out for it, both the elected officials that are listening and just constituents driving down the street seeing the yard signs, but there's been some shenanigans at bay. Not only have we been seeing ridiculous emails that have been sent to to elected officials from quote-unquote constituents that weren't really constituents, but now we're seeing the stickers popping up on yard signs of Republicans that say Brownbacker. Yeah, because you are a Brownbacker. And these stickers have been popping up on a lot of the yard signs, so if you see them, let the elected official know, or try and they're very difficult to get off, by the way, too. I've seen those, and we've tried to take some off, but it is very difficult to do, and sometimes you just have to replace the yard sign. But these individuals are so angry, so bitter, so hateful of Republican values that they're going around apparently now, and some of the old Brownbacker stickers that they put on in prior years, they're using them again to put on yard signs in the Wichita area, South Central Kansas area, for Republicans who are conservatives. Be aware of it, be cautious of it, because it's stupid, and people just love to vandalize things because they feel like they have the chance to do so. Bottom of the hour news coming up. When we come back, Jim Howell, Sedgwick County Commissioner, will be joining the program on a freedom-loving Wednesday. Stay here.
Here's the latest from the KQAM News Center.
Weeding through the fake news on a daily basis.
I hope now you boys see that this is totally serial.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Yeah, baby, that's what we're talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason. 35 minutes past the hour. That's the way we roll. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program on a freedom-loving Wednesday, we'd love to hear from you. I can't believe the vandalism that happens at times Brownbacker. Put the nice little sticker on the yard sign. If you see those, take a picture. I took a picture of one. Let's spread it around. Let's show how dirty the Democrats actually play with some of these games. We do this every single week. It is Wednesday. It is that time with our Sedgwick County Commissioner. As we have him on talking about many of the county issues going on right now, Sedgwick County Commissioner Mr. Jim Howell on the line with us. Jim, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. I want to say, first of all, happy birthday, Andy. I know it's this weekend, but I got to get that out right before I forget.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Welcome to a new decade.
A brand new decade. That's kind of, see, again, that's a scary thought. You know, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this one. I'm just like, yeah, whatever, but this one's kind of a little odd. Have to play.
Well, it'll be great. So don't worry about that. It's just nothing changes. It's just, it's all mental.
Well, that is true. A whole another decade I get to look forward to. Oh, boy. No, I appreciate that very much. Thank you very much. Coming up on the County Commission today, lots of big stuff going on. You guys are busy. Now, I take that back. I mean, it's going into election season, so maybe things are calming down a little bit. But at the same time, there's still important things that always happen in the county.
Well, there's always important things going on in the county. We have a fairly big consent agenda. We have some appointments. Those are always actually just really routine. So they're not. I would say they're not big things, of course. But so in that regard, no, we don't have a lot of big things. We do have one item I think is a little controversial. I'd like to hear from your listening audience, actually, on this USS Wichita. And I got just a couple of comments. I guess I'm still thinking about this. But I got to do some research on this on my own, and I find out now there's actually, what I can see right now is 15 of these LCS ships either already in service or in the process of being manufactured and delivered.
Okay.
And there have a bunch of city namesakes on these different ships. And so I'm curious, what's the history of these other cities donating money to these ships? I think we should have that data. And second of all, what counties these cities sit in do these counties donate to these projects? I would like to know that as well. And then I would just tell you, Andy, I was in the military, and I love the military with all my heart. I'm a huge advocate of our military and everything that can help our troops. And so I certainly don't want our service members to suffer in any way by having a ship that has no amenities in it. That to me does not make sense. I want it to have the amenities. But it is bringing up some questions. When I was in the military, we had amenities until I went on some deployment. And when I was on a deployment, we cut our own hair, and we didn't have a high quality of life right then. Things were a little tough.
Sure.
I got to go to Desert Shield, Desert Storm deployment back in the early 1990s. And so I've seen some of that stuff. And I also wonder about some of the things I'm hearing about is going to go in this ship. Things like the barber chair, for example. I go to a barber and I look at that massive chair and I wonder to myself, where's this going to fit on this ship?
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to get bolted down? How's this going to work? And then I wonder about, the TVs. We're going to buy TVs and laptops. Well, laptops are kind of personal items, I think. And TVs, they wear out, 7 or 8 years. You got to buy a new TV. And the ship's going to last 25 years. Is this a one-time gift? Is this something, how are they going to replace those down the road? So I have all these questions. And so I just wonder, what's the listening audience think we should do on this? I would love to hear from them, and I hope they'll call in and share some of their opinions on this.
It's a very interesting conversation, and we talked to the city council about it yesterday. Brian Fry joined the program as he does, and he had talked about the USS Wichita as well. And it's a neat deal that we have the ship that's named after us, and that we've had the history of the battleships, all the way back to World War I is when we ended up having the first one, which was kind of neat. So the history of it's really cool. We have this name attachment to it. We have the representation, but and he was very excited about this. And I think it's neat to some degree as well about the being able to help out the members based on what's going to be on the ship. But as you mentioned, from the county standpoint, at what point or should the county be investing money into this as well? Or do we have money to be appropriating elsewhere that's more appropriate?
Well, that's another thing about this. It's being presented as an economic development item. So I'm wondering, is this going to benefit our community in some way? Knowledge of a ship around the other side of the ocean with our name on it doesn't necessarily create jobs here. So I'm having trouble connecting this. To me, it's a thing to do because we love our military, but I don't see this as economic development. So I just have lots of questions, I guess. I'm not saying I could not support it. Maybe I will support it, but
would there be things that you'd be more in support of to donate towards it if it was going towards other things other than maybe like TVs and barbershops?
Well, let me give you a couple of examples. We decided this year, I tried to make a motion to provide some additional funding for our senior centers because we have a growing need there, and they've demonstrated performance measures that says that we should give them additional funds. I had one motion prepared to fully fund them. I thought we had the funds to do that. Short of that, I was going to make a motion to give each one of these 5 senior centers $5,000. Well, that's $25,000. Oh, same amount we're talking about for USS Wichita. And that motion got shut down by a procedural motion here on the county commission. So, to me, there are other things we could spend $25,000 on. One of our biggest needs right now in this community is job skills training. If you really want to push economic development, we need to get some of the people out there that want these jobs, that can't qualify for these jobs. They have a skills deficit. We need to invest in people to help them have the skills. Because I'll tell you what, these employers, when they have those jobs open, if they can't find someone to fill the jobs, they're going to bring in people from outside, or if they get frustrated enough, they'll just move their business somewhere else. So it's a big problem on economic development to make sure we have people that are skilled to can fill those jobs at the right time. And it's always a challenge. Either we have more people than we have jobs, or we have more jobs than we have people. 4 years ago, it was more people than jobs. Today, we've got more jobs than people that can fill them, and that's a great problem to have. But we need to invest on the human side to help them get the skills they need so they can fill these jobs. Otherwise, it's all for naught.
Now, what about something on the ship, though? If we do end up, let's say that it does pass and we send $25,000 to the ship in order to put something on there, maybe there's a way to do it where you think maybe the resources would be a little more usable rather than like TVs and chairs. I mean, something like that. If we put on, I don't know, let's buy a bunch of bullets to put on the ship or something like that.
Well, that's an interesting idea. I've heard that we're supposed to be buying dishes, for example, and I guess they wash the dishes and they stack them up. This is like you'd see, China-type dishes in your cabinet. That's what we're apparently going to put on the ship. And, there's things like that that are utilitarian, perhaps, that are necessary. But I guess I'm just curious, how is it that the military, they find ways to provide for the needs of their service members, every place. To me, I don't have an awareness that a local community somehow, provides the funding for those types of things. Maybe that's what happens normally. I just don't have the data, and unfortunately, I've not been briefed on this. So I don't really. I would have asked my questions, maybe a week or two ago. If someone would have came and had the briefing with me, but that didn't happen. So I'm struggling with some of the details and I'm a curious person. I like to dig in deep and understand things why we're doing them, so I can answer questions that people ask me. But I can't answer the questions because I don't really know the answers myself. So I'm not saying I wouldn't support it. And maybe there's things on the ship that are maybe a better connection to this money. But what I've been told so far is, and it's in the article that's online right now, is laptops, TVs, entertainment, games, barber chair. That's what I kind of want to remember. And those are all, quality of life things, absolutely. And everybody ought to have access to those, wherever they happen to be. I want them to have those things. The question is this an appropriate use of economic development money from Sedgwick County? That's a great question. So I don't know. I'm struggling. I would appreciate audience input. So I'll be listening to the show after I get off the phone. And at 9 o'clock, by the way, we'll have our meeting. And
sure,
if anybody wants to chime in and give their personal opinion on TV in front of the commissioners, we'd encourage them to come on up.
Sure. Well, it is definitely an interesting conversation. I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, I love it. And I love the fact that we're focused on, the business initiative and things going on in the county as well. If we do end up donating to the $25,000 to the ship, for quality of life things, or whether it's beneficial things, whether it's non-beneficial things, whatever. I don't know. I almost chalk it up as maybe just a donation of, hey, you know what, military, here you go. That's our contribution from the community saying thank you for what you do, sort of thing. I don't know.
And I'll tell you the other thing. You could, it's easy to justify this as well. You could say, well, it's only, on average, it's a nickel per person in our county.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nickel. I would make the same argument about senior center funding or senior,
sure,
funding for our seniors.
Sure.
But but we turn down one thing, and then we promote something else. And I guess I just see this as maybe a little overly political. And
that could be.
If I understood this more deeply, and I understood this was truly a need, and this is normal for counties and cities, I can certainly see maybe even cities.
Sure.
Because their name's on the ship. Okay, I get that. But this is county funding, and I guess my question is, is this normal for counties to provide this type of funding? I wish I had that data.
That would be a fun conversation. I think it would be interesting, and I think that the city at least should do something like that. As you mentioned, the county, is it up in the air? Is it worth the spending to spend money on that? Should we be spending our money a little more appropriately? Now, I mean, we've talked about the greatness of what you guys have done as a county to actually get our budget under control and do things a little more efficiently. So we've done a good job of it, and should it be applied towards a senior center, or should it be applied towards, a military ship, battleship? That's a good question.
Well, let me say, senior center funding may not be economic development either, but I wouldn't recommend we would use that money that way.
Sure.
Economic development money, in my opinion, should be driving towards improving our economy and ideally creating jobs and helping connect our people to those jobs. That to me is what economic development is supposed to do, or creating an outside interest. In other words, if we create something here that brings in tourism, for example, that might be a good economic development strategy. But this is money that's designed for that purpose. It's segregated out in our budget for that purpose. And
sure.
To me, it's just not a fund we should use for just any purpose. And so I wouldn't advocate using economic development money for seniors. But my point was, within our budget, we debated, whether we should spend, $25,000 on supplemental funding for our seniors when they demonstrated the need and they demonstrate, good use of the money. That's just me. I'm not against using economic development money for things that are certainly going to help our community grow and thrive. I think that's great. That's what it's for.
Sure.
My question actually is that what this is doing? I just don't want to look at us as a place to go get money. And I'm knowledge of this ship. Although I like knowing there's a ship out there with our name on it. I don't know that this is something that the community widely supports or not. I just don't know. I wish I had better input.
Well, today would be a good day to be able to do that. You guys will be discussing it at the county commission meeting, and I hope people do show up and give their input on that, or even call into the show here and we can talk about it, because I think it would be a really interesting conversation. Outside of the funding for the ship, anything else big going on with the county commission today?
Well, we have a responsibility today to we're going to technically we tried to do this through a staff meeting yesterday, but I have a bit of a question on this as well. We have what's called the task force input to the state of Kansas. About every 10 years or so, the state does what's called like another T-Works type of program. Last time I think it was $8 or $10 billion of planned spending for regionally important, significant road projects across our state. And most of that's money that ends up getting bonded out, but handed out to big projects across the state. So every 10 years or so, they ask us, hey, what are your big projects? And so we have, a number of projects on this, things like the North Junction. We've got the Northwest Bypass. We've got East Kellogg and West Kellogg have additional projects taking it further out, away from the city. There's one out south, though. It's called the Arc 95 project. That's a 95th Street bridge over the Arkansas River. It connects Hayesville and Derby and provides a way basically to go from east to west or whichever, and maybe move that direction across the county before you drive into the city to go that direction. So it's a way to relieve some pressure on some of the other roads. And so to me, this is kind of an important project, and it's been on our horizon for, I'm going to say, probably more than 10 years, maybe 15 years. This has been discussed in this community.
Sure. I
want this project on this list, and apparently my colleagues, they may feel differently. So we're going to have a bit of a discussion about that. I'm going to bring this up off agenda, and I hope we discuss this, and I hope to keep the Arc 95 project on that list. And then finally, that's really probably it. There's really nothing else on the agenda sitting here other than we do have our typical, pay the bills type of votes. So,
come on, that is kind of important too.
Oh, it's very important. You have to pay the bills.
Got to pay the bills sometimes. That's right.
I like going through the list of checks and seeing how much money we're spending each week. It's just incredible.
Oh, I can imagine.
But, it's important stuff.
I can imagine. Absolutely. No, it's still important stuff. I hope everybody shows up to the Sedgwick County Commission meeting today, gets their input not only on the spending, but everything else going on that you guys are doing. If people want to show up to the County Commission meeting today, how can they do so?
Well, they can certainly show up today. The meeting's at 9 o'clock, as usual, most Wednesdays. Next Wednesday, we're not going to have a meeting because we have a statewide conference next week. But this week, as most Wednesdays, we meet at 9 o'clock at the county courthouse. That's the blue building on the northwest corner of Central and Main Street, on the third floor. But since it's kind of an issue today, if people want to email me or call me, they can certainly email me at jim.howell@sedgwick.gov. Or they can call me at my office at 660-9300. And I would love to hear from people if they want to give me some input before I have to go out there and make a decision on this. With that, if they do want to come up to the meeting, they would certainly have an opportunity to speak personally before the commission. And we do televise our meetings as well as we stream them live on the internet, and then we post them on YouTube after the meeting. So it's always a great opportunity to be heard, and we love that, giving people that opportunity.
Sure. No, absolutely. Good stuff. I love it. Sedgwick County Commissioner Jim Howell, you guys always have a rocking good time, and I know you're going to be excited about today's meeting. So we appreciate it all the time, my friend. Good luck with the meeting, and we'll chat with you again next Wednesday.
Thank you, Andy.
Hey,
have a great week, sir.
Always a good time. Good time. Yep.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Yes, there we go. It's going to be a fun celebration for sure as we dive into the new one here. I love it. Appreciate it very much, Jim. Got to take a break. 7 minutes to the top of the hour. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome back into the program. About 2.5 minutes at the top of the hour. Thanks again to Sedgwick County Commissioner Jim Howell joining the program. We always love chatting with him on a Wednesday morning. When we come back in hour number 3, we still haven't gotten to the debate. I know, right? It's been too busy today, too crazy. When we come back, hour number 3, State Representative Susan Humphreys on our Decision 2018 as we continue on with talking about more candidates, their platforms, the election, the topical issues. And we'll do that when we come back. Plus, we will cover some of the debate that happened on KMUW yesterday with the NPR, the 5 gubernatorial candidates that ended up joining that debate. And did that sway your opinion in any way, shape, or form about voting for a third party? You know my thoughts on third-party candidates. And we'll talk about that when we come back in hour number 3 as well. Plus, your phone calls. I do want to hear from you. What's on your mind today? It's a big one. It is a pre-Friday celebration. It's a freedom-loving Wednesday. Let's keep the ball rolling and wake you up the best way we can possibly do right here on the radio as you hear on your airwaves the most soothing sounds that you could possibly hear that say, "We're going to stop you, Democrats!" Hour number 3 coming up. Stay here.
It's time for Reason.
That's the shenanigans that we have to start getting rid of here in Kansas. Once we do that, people will want to come here. Businesses will want to come here, and the county and city won't even have to look for the jobs or the industries. They'll just be coming to us, and we'll have to figure out a place to where to put them. That's a good problem to have. Vote the progressives out. Vote the Democrats out. Vote even some moderates out, because we're over it. The movement's growing. Conservatism is on the rise.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, hour number 3. The Voice of Reason broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM, simulcasting on TV as well, KGPT TV, channel 2610. Good morning, welcome aboard. What up? Welcome in on a freedom-loving Wednesday, getting you started the best way we know how to do so, better than a cup of coffee, a shot of espresso, even an energy drink. It's that shot of adrenaline that you need called conservatism each and every day right here on The Voice of Reason. Welcome in, 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join in, it is that time.
You have the power with your vote to defend your family, your community, your country, and everything we hold sacred and righteous and true. Loyal citizens like you help build this country, and together we are taking back our country, returning power to everyday great American patriots.
See, that's what I'm talking about, and that's what we do every day on this show. And the way to get you pumped up and ready for the midterm season in 2018, it is Decision 2018.
Decision 2018.
Pay attention.
As we talk to candidates all over the state of Kansas and their campaigns, the platforms, the topical issues of what's going on with the next legislative session and beyond are brought to you by here on KQAM Airwaves, The Spectacle Shop, Augusta Flight Center, Trailers and More, Davis Liquor Outlet, MJ's Truck Repair in Moundridge, JD Aviation and Heartland Avionics, Phil's Coins, and Continental Truck Accessories. We appreciate all those guys partnering up with us, allowing us to do our election coverage as we do so on the show. And I'm really excited to be on the phone with right now from District number 99 here in the state of Kansas, State Representative Susan Humphreys on the line. Susan, how are you today?
I'm well, Andy. Thank you so much for having me on.
Hey, I love chatting. It's always a pleasure to get you on. How's the campaign going so far? How you feeling?
I would say it's going well. I'm seeing really more enthusiasm in the last couple weeks at the doorstep from Republicans saying, now, what party are you? And when I say I'm the Republican candidate, they say that's good enough for me. I'm going straight Republican. Yeah, more than I did at the beginning when we first started knocking on doors.
That's fantastic. Do you think that some of the national issues have led to that to some degree, maybe with the Kavanaugh hearings, people upset with seeing how angry Democrats have been at the federal level with the protests going on here in these areas with the anti-Trump mentality? Is it just that people have had enough and they're trying to support the Republicans to make sure the Democrats don't get into power to throw their temper tantrums?
100%. And they're even expressing that. I had a teacher last night at the door tell me that she was thinking she was going to vote for Orman for governor, and she said, absolutely not after what happened in Washington. You know, I'm going straight Republican now.
Wow. It is unbelievable to see. It's good. It's good because I'm glad that people are paying attention and they're frustrated. They say the blue wave's happening. Susan, I from what you're hearing on the doors, I don't know if the blue wave's going to happen at all.
Well, I'm not, you know, the doors I'm knocking on are not necessarily the blue doors.
Sure.
And so I don't know their enthusiasm level. I just know what I'm seeing, and our enthusiasm level has gone up, especially, like I said, in the last couple of weeks. So I'm thinking we should be really optimistic, but we can't let it fade.
Exactly.
We've got 4 weeks to go. We need to stay strong.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right there. When you are knocking on the doors, other than the enthusiasm saying, I got to vote Republican, I got to keep these Democrats out, are there any main topical points that they are bringing up? Is it saying, hey, we need to address the educational funding in the Kansas, we need to address gun rights, we need to, what's the big issues that they bring up if they are talking to you and saying, here's my concerns right now?
You know, at the door, people don't tend to bring up specific issues a lot, but I would say the main thing is just let's hold down the size of the government. We know what might happen if there is a blue wave, and so let's hold it back. Let's think about the people, who are the job creators, who's going to protect the unborn, who's going to keep our constitutional rights in check. It's more general, I would say, than specific topics this year.
Sure. The primaries were some really interesting primaries, especially around the state of Kansas and in our area here. And we saw a few of the seats that went from maybe incumbent Republicans that are a little more on the moderate side to some more conservative challengers that ended up winning the primaries. The makeup of the legislature going into the 19th session, do you see that there may be kind of a change in mentality or a change in direction on what we might see from compared to what we did last year?
Absolutely. The primaries told us a lot about where people are at, and I think they didn't expect the largest tax increase in Kansas history, and so those folks were not reelected. Now we have to keep strong on that message because there are some seats that are in jeopardy for Republicans, and there's other seats that are in jeopardy for Democrats, and so I think we're not really going to know until November 6th, the evening of November 6th, and who is the governor is going to be huge, because do we need 63 or do we need 84 in the House? That's really, I think, where the crux is.
That is true. I mean, that's going to be a really big point. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because the one question I wanted to ask, and I've asked every candidate so far, is the importance of not only your House race, but when it comes to the leadership in Kansas, when it comes to what we may be fighting for. I mean, we've seen the shift every single 8 years to go back and forth in the governorship, Republican, Democrats. This is the year where potentially the Republicans could maintain this one. It's going to be a hard-fought battle, but if we do or if we don't, I mean, that could really drastically change what the session may look like when it comes to tax rates, government spending, and even Second Amendment issues. What's going to happen in Topeka this year?
That's why if Chris Kobach is our governor, then we're going to be able to take on the school lawsuits. We're going to be able to return that approximately $150 million back to the taxpayers with the tax deduction windfall. The people of Kansas are going to win. Like you said, rights and different things. And, I feel like if the other side wins, it's just going to roll back. We're going to go backwards.
Well, the other two candidates for governor, I've heard that during the debates that they're both in advocacy of expanding Medicaid. I'm sure this is going to be brought up in the legislature again in 2019 from the legislature itself. And then, the governor's going to have a huge play in that on whether they support it or not. But, I mean, do we have another opportunity to fight off Medicaid expansion in Kansas this year?
I think it's a never-ending battle. I think they're going to go after it again. And what I tell people is my overall responsibility for fiscal, a solid fiscal base in Kansas supersedes any specific funding for a specific industry. We have to look at the whole budget. And so people may focus in on Medicaid or different things, but what's that going to do to the budget? It's unsustainable. And so I just, in that case, I have to say that may seem good to you because you're in the middle of that. But as legislators, we've got to look at everything. That's what matters.
Sure. No, absolutely. Do you see an uptick or a positive trend happening right now when it comes to the economy? Kansas last year was one of the 3 states that we saw negative GDP growth in the country, which was really devastating at negative 0.1%. Are we seeing that pendulum maybe change a little bit going into this year? So when we get the end of the year report that maybe we could see some better numbers?
Andy, I don't know. I can't predict the future. I feel like there is an optimism with folks. Now, I know our son just got a new job in the aircraft industry. He's already gotten a raise. Things are looking better, but we have to make sure that we lessen the burden on those job creators. We have to make sure that we keep those regulations rolled back. We have to do the things that are going to change people's lives, which is jobs. So I can't predict how Kansas is going to fare compared to the other states, but it seems to me that we should be optimistic about the future.
Sure. No, absolutely. Talk about your race a little bit. Talk about, first off, district number 99. Where is that located?
Okay. It's far east Wichita and Andover.
Okay, very good. And then your general election with the Democrat running against you. I mean, I know you said you've been knocking on the doors of the Republicans. That seems very momentous, and they're excited and ready to go. But talk about some of the differences between you and your opponent right now.
Okay. I'm also knocking on the doors of unaffiliated. So I think that's, yes, absolutely. And I think that's huge. My opponent, I've not met her yet. I look forward to being able to meet her. It seems like to me when I see the things that she's published or on Facebook, it's more like she's against things instead of for things. I haven't seen a lot of positive ideas. I'm definitely linked with Chris Kobach. How whatever he says, I say, it seems like from what she's saying. But I haven't seen a ton of activity in my district, even though there's a large group of unaffiliated. My district tends to be conservative, but I'm not taking anything for granted. I'm out there walking, talking to people. I love getting to visit with people on the door. Some don't want to visit. Some have dogs that keep them from visiting, and then others, will step out on the porch and really want to talk. And I love getting to do that with the constituents.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure she's going after you for saying that you're a Kobacher or something, because as you mentioned, if you're supporting Kobach, then how dare you be one of those? I've seen some other incidents of other candidates in the area where their yard signs have actually had the sticker of the Brownbacker on there, and they're still going after them. Have you seen any of that in your district yet?
I haven't, and I'm like, really? That is so, 2012 or 14. I haven't had Brownbacker stickers yet. I did 2 years ago, but I'm just amazed that people are still talking about that. Let's go forward.
Yeah, if you're conservative, that is so 6 years ago. What the heck? I mean, they try to be the retro ones and trying to be on the hipster ways of the new trends, but yet they're still living in the old days.
Exactly. Because there's not a lot to criticize. I mean, they've got to rely on something. So,
which I don't know. I mean, if it's a conservative district too, you'd almost wonder that if you have a sticker on there that says Brownbacker, that might even play into your favor to some degree, wouldn't it?
Oh, it might. Except I think the LLC issue, I had Republicans, that were not happy with that quote unquote unfairness of that. So that 2 years ago, that was an issue, even for staunch Republicans.
Sure. Well, that's true. But I mean, even in conservative districts, they recognize it. I don't think it's going to play into favor if they do go after you in that sense. But now apparently you're a Brownbacker and a Kobacher. So there you go.
Exactly. That's right.
It's going to be good. It's going to be a fun election. Last message to talk to the constituents in your area, the importance of this election, and to make sure to get out the vote.
Absolutely. I just would say we saw in the primaries one vote matters, that House race in Hutchinson, one vote, when we were passing the Adoption Protection Act and in the House, one vote, we needed 63, we got 63. Yep. We saw just the Supreme Court in the U.S. how one vote really does matter. And so, and why it matters so much is not just that I can win or someone else can win. It's because when we have majorities in the House, it changes the makeup of the committees. It changes the leadership. The issues that are important to Kansans and their lives get advanced. So I just would encourage people, don't lose your enthusiasm that you have right now. Get out and vote, because every single vote matters.
Every single vote matters. Absolutely. Susan Humphreys, State Representative, District number 99. We always love chatting with you, Susan. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Good luck to you in the race. It's going to be a heck of a one, and we'll talk to you again here real soon.
Okay, it's great to speak with you. Thank you, Andy.
Always a good time there. State Representative Susan Humphreys, District number 99. We'll take a break. We'll get her back on the show again later. Your phone calls when we come up. Open lines to you for the rest of the show. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Minutes past the hour. Welcome into the Voice of Reason on a freedom-loving Wednesday. Thanks again to Susan Humphreys, State Representative, District number 99, for joining the program for our what?
Decision 2018.
Pay attention.
Yeah, that's right. We have our great sponsors allowing us to do that each and every day on the show here leading up to Election Day. Augusta Flight Center at Augusta Municipal Airport. MJ's Truck Repair in Mound Ridge, Kansas Trailers and more. Davis Liquor Outlet, 5 independently owned locations. Phil's Coins, 9344 West Central Avenue. Continental Truck Accessories. Give them a call, 316-633-4907. The Spectacle Shop, KRSpecs.com. And JD Aviation and Heartland Avionics at Augusta Municipal Airport as well. We appreciate all of those participating sponsors allowing us to do our Decision 2018. Getting into election season, feeling the energy. Did you hear what she said? They're pumped. We're ready. We're excited. You're the Republican? Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm going to support you. We got to beat the Democrats here. We're tired of them throwing their temper tantrums. We're tired of them throwing their fits. We're tired of them blocking whatever we're doing. We got stuff to get done, and we need your help to do it. So, you know what? Republicans all the way, baby. 316. And again, that goes into the whole third-party voting, which I want to talk about here in a little bit later. Again, I want to remind you, does that actually help the cause? But let's go to the phones. We got a few minutes before the bottom of the hour. 316-721-8255. Line number 1. Good morning. Who's this?
It's Wallace.
Good morning, Wallace. How are you, sir?
Hey, not too bad. So I watched the Channel 12 debate last night.
Yes.
And I got to tell you, is that Jeff Caldwell guy for serious?
Well, the only thing, of course, the only platform he's running on is we need to legalize marijuana.
That's exactly, you stole my thunder, because they're like, so what are your thoughts on education? I like hemp and weed. What about immigration? Oh, hemp and weed. I mean, it was just, and it's just like,
that's his one platform. And that's why he's the one platform, no matter what with Laura Kelly, how do you solve the problems of the GDP? Well, as long as you invest in education and expand Medicaid, it'll just solve itself. Her problem is you do those two things, everything will be taken care of. With Caldwell, how are you going to solve, children not getting proper grades in school? Well, if you legalize marijuana, we'll have money to sink more money into education.
Well,
I mean, yeah.
And then Rick Clues, every time he talked, I got dizzy watching him sway back and forth. I was just like, would you stand still, man? I mean, it was
fascinating to watch, yeah. And again, they're excited because that was the only debate that they actually get to be on the platform with the other major candidates.
I thought was interesting when Kobach brought up, look, student enrollment went up, what was it, 7% or 10%. Teachers have gone up to 14%, but administration's gone up 40%.
Right.
We don't need people shuffling papers around. We need more teachers teaching kids, maybe smaller classrooms, maybe break these classrooms down, and you can separate some of the children that excel from the children that need additional help so you don't slow. Because right now, your classroom's only as good as the slowest student.
Right.
And so break the slower students down, get them the help they need so they can become faster, and let the faster ones keep running. I mean,
sure.
This is so simple. Laura, I mean, I don't remember if it was one of the programs. I got in a debate with a teacher, and she's all for spending more and more and more money. And I said, look, if you take a kid that can't read a book and you put $1 million in his left hand, he still can't read that book. Money doesn't equal education. And she goes, well, you don't understand. It's not our problem. It's these kids come from homes that don't value education. Their parents are disengaged. They don't show up for parent-teacher conferences. They don't care about report cards.
Well, that's true, but at the same time, you're the role model that's with the kid for 6 to 8 hours a day, so it is a little bit of your responsibility. Let's get them excited about it.
But here's where I nailed her, and this is where it exposes the hypocrisy. Because, when you make them admit that they're really not the biggest problem, and this is a home environment issue, when it's a generational thing. And I said, well, ma'am, I said, look, I agree with you. When you have parents that don't value education, the kids most likely won't do it, especially when it's generation after generation. So how is giving your school more money going to make their parents care?
That's true.
And, of course, that says, well, it's not. It's not going to change a freaking thing at the home. So spending more and more money isn't going to change the outcome. I mean, why is it a teacher? Teachers, and I'm not meaning to pick on teachers, but, if you don't excel at your job, or if I don't excel at my job, if I don't perform, I get fired. Why is a teacher, the outcome of students is bad, and they don't get fired?
Well, that's a great point. Now, again, I mean, as you mentioned before, I mean, the teachers are even part of the victims in this situation because even when they do get more money into the district, it doesn't go into the classroom for the books and for the resources or for their salaries for them to even want to focus a lot more on there. So I appreciate that, Wallace. We got to take a bottom of the hour break, but you're absolutely right. Money's going up and up and up, and then we don't see any more of it, and then they want more. It just doesn't make any sense to me. We'll talk about more of the debate when we come back. Your thoughts on it, more calls on the line as well. Stay there. We'll get to you as soon as we come back. This is The Voice of Reason.
Here's the latest from the KQAM News Center.
When taxes go up, so do our tempers.
Oh my God, no!
Fighting for Kansans every day. This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Yeah, that's right. Welcome into The Voice of Reason. 36 minutes past the hour. Great to have you along today right here on the Big Talker, KQAM. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK if you want to join into the program as we get you set for election time. KMUW, the NPR station, doing the debate yesterday. The 5 candidates that ended up standing on there. And again, as we mentioned in the last segment, there were 2 that haven't normally gotten to be on the stage with the other ones because, well, there's not a whole lot of support, not getting a whole lot of numbers, that sort of thing. There were 2 of them, Rick Cluse, the other independent. Now, Greg Orman, there's 2 independents, Greg Orman and then Rick Cluse. Rick Cluse being a Frustrated Republican is how he described himself, saying that he described himself as a pro-gun rights and an anti-abortion Republican, but a frustrated Republican doesn't help the Republican cause to separate from the Republican Party. Now, does it? If you're frustrated, do you walk away from it or do you fix it? Why don't you be part of the Republican Party and try and fix the Republican Party? That's a good question. I mean, that would be my philosophy. I'm one of those to where if I get frustrated about a situation, I can't just walk away from it. I have to fix it. Now, if it's completely lost cause, then you can walk away. But the Republican Party is us. We are the Republican Party. If you're a registered Republican, if you go and vote, we are it. So it's not like it can't be fixed if you have problems with it. But that was his big thing of being a frustrated Republican and then having conservative values. I don't know what that accomplishes. Let me ask you something. If you're a Republican and you're a frustrated Republican and you want to promote Republican values, does it do you any good to vote for the third party that takes away from the Republican Party? I just don't get that. And then we had, of course, the Libertarian Jeff Caldwell that right now is sitting around 4 or 5% of the votes in the polls, according to the latest polls that we saw a week or so ago, where, again, the entire argument was, hey, how do you fix Canada? Legalize marijuana. Okay. How do you fix schools? Well, if you legalize marijuana. Hey, how do you fix the trade deals with Kansas? Well, legalize hemp and marijuana. It was really all that he said. There you go. Libertarian candidate. I mean, again, and there are some, like we talked about just last week or a couple weeks ago, that if you are disagreeing with Chris Kobach on his stance on marijuana, and that's your reason for walking away from Chris Kobach or the Republican Party, then I guess the Libertarian candidate's your party or your candidate. But at the same time, the one issue, that's it. I don't understand why that would be the big breaking thing to say this is going to be the end-all be-all. And again, if it's within a 1 or 2 point margin for the Republican and the Democrat, and the Libertarian ends up getting 4 or 5% of the vote because the marijuana is the one issue, is that really worth it? Is that really worth it? That's the big question I have, but there it is. The other two candidates really excited about being on the stage with the three major, quote-unquote, I mean, I say Greg Orman's major because he gets the presence, although he's floating around 7 to 9% of the polls right now, so he's not as major, but the other three, quote-unquote, major candidates, they got to be on stage yesterday. It was very interesting. Did it change your mind? Did it make you think about those candidates, or did you, is that not swaying your vision or your support for one candidate or another as a Republican or as a Democrat or as an independent in any way, shape, or form? I'd love to hear from you. Let's go to the phones. Open lines to you at 316-721-8255. Line number 2. Good morning. Who's this?
It's Sue.
Hey, good morning, Sue. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Loving it. Living the dream.
Good. Well, you know, it's funny because I had never heard of Caldwell before, but he put a sign up at our intersection down here with a giant marijuana leaf on it, and his name is so small under it that it's like, what is this? We weren't sure what it was at first, but
it's a pot sign. Oh, there's a candidate there. Yeah.
Well, here's all I wanted to say, and that is that Kobach was completely right last night when he said that if any of his 4 opponents become governor, all you're going to have is a cycle of the legislature sending bills to the governor and the governor vetoing.
Sure.
And so I would implore people who are looking at this election as a one-issue situation to rethink that. We really have to look at the bigger picture, and even though that we don't ever have a candidate that's going to embody everything we want and that we're going to agree with on everything, we have to look at the package and say, which person in the long run is going to fit the bill the most?
Sure. No, that's a great point. I mean, we still have a Republican majority. Even if we win a few seats, lose a few seats in the legislature, we're still going to have that Republican majority. And there are many more conservatives going into the legislature this year as well that's going to be working on expanding gun rights, being able to cut some of the spending, being able to get control of the Supreme Court. And you're absolutely right that really with any of those, unless it's marijuana, of course, then if it's any one of those other 4 candidates, that if they're the governor, then it's going to be the fight of stagnation all session long. We're going to be even more frustrated. We're going to have the legislature creating bills. The governor's going to be vetoing it. And then we're going to be fighting all season long on whether we can get enough to override the governor's veto. That's really what the session's going to come down to.
Well, and think about this. It's not just the session. It's for the entire term of that governor.
Mm-hmm.
We've already had a serious issue coming out of Brownback that needs to be addressed. And replacing him with someone where we're going to have 4 more years of nothing happening that needs to happen is a crazy thing to think about. We definitely need to look at who's the best person to try and make the changes. And then when you've got fringe issues going on, you spend time working with outside groups if necessary, local groups, your local legislator to educate.
Sure.
You educate the governor, you educate the legislators on these issues, and you move it forward in that way. You don't say, well, Brownback is this or Kobach is that because of one issue, and therefore I'm done. I'm just going to go for the long shot guy.
Right.
And then you end up with a nightmare because you siphoned off enough votes that we've got a Laura Kelly or a Greg Orman or a pot guy or whoever you get. So
I'm getting heartburn already just thinking about the stagnation, the anger especially if we get more conservatives up there and we feel like, okay, we accomplished something, we got more conservatives in the legislature, let's start getting rid of some of these taxes, getting our budget under control, but we don't get a conservative in there to actually be a governor to allow that to happen. I feel more heartburn coming on already of the fact that we're going to see, as you mentioned, an entire 4 years of not seeing anything happen. It's going to be stagnation. It's going to be pushing it to the last day or the last week of the legislative session every year. It's going to be going into special sessions again. It's going to be figuring out how to get the budget done to where we can agree with the conservative legislature for the most part, and then the Democrat or the liberal governor, and how to make everything all peachy. And we're never going to get anything done. And I tell you what, the anger in Kansas is going to rise beyond what we've even seen over the last couple of years.
It is, and not only that, when we have all of them up there talking about increasing revenue through sports betting, the potential at some point of having some kind of marijuana situation being taxed, then you're putting someone in there that's going to help decide how that money gets spent.
Right.
So just say you get what you want and you get those things, and then we boost the amount of money coming into the government. Who do you want deciding where that money's going to be spent? Someone like Laura Kelly or Greg Orman or Mr. Pott or whoever, you know what I mean?
Sure.
You got to think about these things, people. Let's really think about the big picture here before you go and vote on the 6th, because it's really important. You can always educate and work on fringe issues, but look at the big picture of moving the state in what direction. That's where you need to be.
I couldn't have said it better, Sue. I love it. I appreciate the call very much. So you're absolutely right. And look, I want people to be fired up about an issue or 2 or 3, whatever that issue may be, to go to the voting booth. But is that going to be the one singular issue to where you say, well, the heck with everything else? I mean, you're right, but let's put it this way. Let's say that we get someone in that is like Jeff Caldwell, that is for marijuana, and no one else is. Even Laura Kelly, if you vote for Jeff Caldwell, he doesn't have a chance. It loses the election for Kobach. Laura Kelly gets in there, and she's not even for marijuana. It's not going to happen. But let's say that Jeff Caldwell somehow gets in. If we legalize marijuana, where's it going to go? Guess what? I guarantee it's probably going to go towards what? More educational funding. Do we need more of that? Well, I don't know. According to the Supreme Court, we do. It's going to go towards more government spending. It's going to go towards more government bureaucracy. Let's get a conservative in there. Then we can fight for, start fighting and educating, as we mentioned. Start trying to fight for a singular issue like marijuana. Start changing the minds of. Start with the agricultural hemp. Start getting people more comfortable with it. Start doing other. And then, you know what? If we do get it, then it can be towards paying off debt. It can be towards putting away the emergency fund. It can be for cutting taxes, because we see more revenue coming in there, so we can cut taxes and have less of a burden elsewhere. And then we'll be in good shape. But we can't do it unless we have the overall conservative feel going into the governorship along with the legislature, and we work together. I don't want another session like we've seen the last 2 years. I've been in Kansas for 3 years now. I don't want another session that I've seen over the last 2-3 years, where we wait till the last minute, we're bickering, we can't get the vote, the governor ends up vetoing, or the governor doesn't veto and he should have, or vetoed, and then we have to find the numbers to override the veto. It's just frustrating. It's angering. I don't want that type of session anymore. We have a huge opportunity right now to have a more conservative legislature, a few more conservative seats in there. We have the potential to get a conservative governor, and all of them saying, we're done with this. We're cutting taxes. We're putting the burden. We're putting the block on the Supreme Court, building up that wall. Build the wall, baby. We're going to cut taxes, give the money back to the people, get the government out of the way, cut government spending, and then let things grow. Not expand Medicaid. We have an opportunity to make that happen. But one singular issue. Give me a break. I just thought it was hilarious. I mean, that's literally all he talked about yesterday. And maybe people like that and like, yeah, all right. Or maybe people realize, hey, there's bigger things and other things to address as well. 316-721-8255, line number 3. Let's go back to it here. Good morning. What's your name?
Good morning. This is Bruce.
Bruce, what's going on? How are you?
Oh, doing all right. Hey, he did get his message through. So
he did.
There's that for him.
That he did. He did get his message across to what his agenda is.
Right? Hey, and speaking of agenda, one of the things I think we're forgetting or missing out on is, under Saul Alinsky, one of the things that his plan was to destroy, institutions and budgets and everything like that to make the socialism requirement. Well, back in the 90s when Sebelius appointed all these socialists to the Supreme Court in Kansas that are making these decisions, she quietly got that turned through to us, and now we're stuck with them.
Sure.
Is there any chance that the next governor is going to get to replace those guys? I don't even know how old they are or anything.
Well, we're getting there. Now, we do have, I believe we do have the term limits on the Supreme Court. So what we really need to do without even having to replace these individuals is just changing the process for the nomination of it. Because, again, right now the Bar Association chooses the 3 nominees for a Supreme Court pick, and then the governor chooses one of the 3. So if you have crappy option A, B, and C, it really doesn't change it. What we need to do is make it a little more transparent. I like the system of what we do at the federal level. Let the governor pick anybody they want to as a Supreme Court justice, and then let the state Senate be able to do the interview, do the process, do the Q&A, and then be able to confirm them on there. Let's do that process because that's a little more transparent and us at least having somewhat of a voice on the choice. I don't know if you're a member of the Bar Association. If you're a lawyer, I'm certainly not a lawyer or part of the Bar Association, so I essentially have zero choice in any way, shape, or form on how these candidates are nominated.
Now, is that the same for then the rest of the judicial system at that level? Because I know our district court judges and stuff are voted in. So how is it all of a sudden it changes when you get up higher?
They changed it years ago in the state legislature. They changed that process, and they've stuck with it since. And we're one of the unique states that actually does it this way. We're one of the very few ones that actually does that. Most states and even the federal government do it, I would say, the normal way, to where you get a nominee, and then the Congress, one of the branches or chambers of Congress, would actually interview and talk and vote. So that way, at least we can have some say to call up our state senator and be like, hey, we want this person confirmed or not confirmed. And I would like that process a heck of a lot better.
Right, absolutely. One of the things we got to be careful of is when anybody says, oh, it's for the children. I mean, that's how Hitler got gun control through in Nazi Germany. It was for the children.
Isn't that a big red flag that pops up? Yeah, a red flag that pops up whenever that phrase comes out is a trigger warning of, hey, it's for the children. Yeah, what's for the children?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Bruce, I appreciate it very much. No, great point. I mean, we still have a lot of work to do, and maybe, just maybe, with a conservative legislature and a conservative governor, we can recognize, hey, maybe we change the process of Supreme Court nominations to where the Bar Association doesn't have full control of it, votes for 3 individuals and says, here you go, governor, choose one of these. And then we blame the governor for a bad choice. No, didn't really have a choice in the first place, did we? Let's go back to the phones here. Line number 4. Good morning. Who's this?
Good morning, Andy. It's Nick.
Nick, what's going on, brother?
Hey, I think it's time for a chicken and cannabis summit.
Chicken and cannabis summit.
Yeah, we could all sit down together, have a little chat and some dinner. We could bring Wallace and we could just kind of hash this cannabis thing out, because let me tell you something. What I saw was one Democrat candidate standing on stage. What I saw was a frustrated Republican to my right, and what I saw was a individual who is bound and determined to get his issue across in the middle. And then on my extreme left was the candidate that I'm going to vote for, Mr. Secretary of State Chris Kobach. Mm-hmm. So there's a unity issue that we have to deal with. And I don't care if it's cannabis, political signs, whatever the case may, campaign finance reports from beer companies or whatever the case may be.
Sure.
We need to have unity in the Republican Party.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and put that one down because, I won't, we'll just leave that one alone for a minute. But I want to say something about the discrimination thing real quick, because I don't understand how we can go, with the identity politics of saying that we're trying to discriminate against the LGBT community when there's obviously other QIAs and other letters that might be discriminated if we do this anyway. So I think that we should just put it down as we are man and a woman and go with the flow that we have done for the millennial. I know you got to take a break, so thanks, Andy. You have a good day. We'll talk to you later.
Nick, I love it. You hit it right on the head there. I'm glad you brought that up because they did bring up the protections for LGBTQ community, and you're spot on in the fact that the criticism is, well, Republicans and Chris Kobach ain't going to have protections for the LGBTQ community, and it goes into the entire discussion of protected classes and the singular class, and then this class is left out, and then this class is left out, and then this class is left out, and then this class is left out. And it just creates an entire ridiculous, absurd protected class of individual classes as opposed to just saying, no, you know what, it's based on qualifications and we don't need to have protected classes like that because that's ridiculous. It's not a civil rights issue like this. This is just going and taking it a little bit too far. He is getting criticized for that, and I'm glad you brought that up because that was something that was brought up during the debate last night and some very interesting comments on that topic. Get some other calls on the line. Stay here. We'll get to you as soon as we come back. Got to take a break. This is The Voice of Reason on KQAM.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
4 minutes to the top of the hour. Welcome back into it. 316-721-8255. I like that idea of having the chicken and marijuana conference and kind of chatting a little bit. Why not? Let's continue to discuss it, continue to delve into the issue, and see what's best for our state. Let's go back to the phones here. 316-721-8255. Line number 1. Good morning. Who's this?
Hi, Andy. This is Helen.
Helen, go for it. You got about a minute.
Okay. It seems amazing to me that people are so upset about the division in our nation and around the world and stuff that the Lord Jesus Christ says in St. Luke 12, chapter 51, suppose ye that I came to give peace on earth? I tell you no, but rather division. He's separating the sheep from the goats.
Well, there you go. That's a great point. Appreciate it very much, all. What's shocking to me as well when it comes to division is that division we see in the Republican Party. If you notice, we have right now on the debate stage for the governorship, we have the Republican Chris Kobach, the Democrat Laura Kelly, and the Independent Greg Orman. But then the other two, we have a frustrated Republican with Kalous, and then we have a Libertarian that for the most part is conservative, I would assume, as a Libertarian candidate that would be more on the conservative side with maybe some social issues flavors thrown in there that may, kind of throw it off. But for the most part, Libertarians economically and fiscally are on the more conservative end. So we essentially have three somewhat Republicans, one and then two really progressives is really what it comes down to in the governor's race. And I want to see that unity. Nick hit a spot on. We need Republican unity. We need the unity together. Let's hash out the differences. The Republican Party has the widest umbrella out of any political party right now for us to be able to express those differences, work together and figure those out, bring us back together, unite us back under that umbrella, and then we can hash it out. But let's at least maintain the ability and the control in order to be able to hash those out, or else we're not going to have any point. What's the point of it? We'll divide ourselves into tiny little sects like the Democrats have, and then we'll never win again. We don't want that to happen. We can unite together. Let's do it. Bringing us back together. This is The Voice of Reason. Everybody have a wonderful Wednesday. Back on Thursday. Big show for you tomorrow as we begin to wrap up this week.